Hello, this week on 5 Brilliant Things, we have the historian Dan Snow.
I feel good. It's a lovely day. I'm doing something nice now. I'm not going to a podcast on the Holocaust,
Yes.
right, which is my day job, or how the Vikings tore a strip across northern England. You know, and this is like,
And it's a low bar for happiness, Dan. Here's my best one. When, hey, how you doing? Mind if I sit down and had breakfast with me?
Amazing.
And it became apparent after about 10 minutes that she thought I was Stephen Merchant.
Oh no!
Yeah.
So
but
good.
she was going, so how's the comedy going? I was going, it's going great.
And how's Ricky?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. What we'll do is something a bit different, actually, which you can right off, and we are going to say how we want to organise our societies, right? And that's what we've got. It's incredibly precious. It's very, very, very unusual. That is a miracle.
Here we go. Hello, Dan. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure. You've come from the New Forest.
I've come from the New Forest, and I was coming up here today, and the sun was out, and it's beautiful, and I was on a train, and all these kids were on a train going to London Zoo, and I thought, I feel good, it's a lovely day, I'm doing something nice now. I'm not going to a podcast on the Holocaust,
Yes.
right, which is my day job, or how the Vikings tore a strip across northern England, you know, and this is like...
And it's a low bar for happiness, Dan.
Well, actually, we could probably talk about this later on. I think that's why one of the reasons I'm quite a mentally well person. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
No, well, darling, we could have a bunch of spear Danes burning the pig shed.
Yeah.
And carrying on. Sorry, yeah.
Do you have you learnt to kind of disassociate that, or is that always there? Because presumably, if you're sort of toiling in horror, is it easy to just put it away and then have fish fingers for tea?
Look, for some scholars who are particular scholars in genocide, Holocaust, I think it isn't easy. My wife's world, which is sort of just as involved women, that her day job means that she does struggle when she comes home. So I cannot claim to be doing that level of seriousness. But yes, on the whole, you can read really appalling stuff all day and come home, and I think actually not just put it aside and make the kids tea, but actually use it positively. So for example, we might talk about this, but I spend my time, and that's why I like your podcasts, I spend my time screaming at the media because it goes, people, we're going to interview, we're going to vox pop this person on the street who says they're absolutely furious about how terrible everything is, and we, of course there are challenges, but this person's got no idea. This person's got no idea of the condition that 99.9% of human beings have ever lived in, which is utter misery in fear of daily violence, crop failure, natural disasters. So for me, I do find I'm able to go, when my wife's complaining, when we go sort of like, oh, there's no mobile phone signaling, I go, well, it could be worse. We could have an army in the...
It would be good if you had that on the news, if it's like, press the red button for context.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? And then
where historians are available with that, but this is why your projects like this are really important, because you do just want to occasionally step back and look, we're absolutely right to worry about it. We're absolutely right to demand better and better. But occasionally, you've got to just go, on the whole, what we've built here, albeit with big problems around climate change, stuff like that, but what we've built here is completely astonishing. Very few women die of childbirth. People can reasonably expect to live to a very old age. You can reasonably expect, too many still do, but most of us can reasonably expect not to go hungry regularly. These are astonishing achievements and breakthroughs like vaccine. And the fact that some of those things like vaccines are under threat, some of those things are being rolled back at the moment is a whole separate issue. But yeah, I think not knowing enough about that history, not knowing about that context, not enough that red button, I think is a reason why some of us are just wander around going, oh, tell you what, it's never been so bad. These politicians, eh? I go, mate, I can give you a list of politicians in the mid-20th century who were 10 times worse.
Yes.
100 times worse, right?
Yeah, we'll have to think about it, but it's the worst time of any country. There's a great story. Is it from the 16th century? I mean, you'll probably know this. But didn't the Dutch kill and eat their prime minister?
There was a riot. I think he was actually killed. You're right.
But, in terms of civil disobedience.
Oh, God. Brits used to riot the whole time. I mean, this British Empire, Golden Age, blah, blah, Nelson's Navy. I mean, there were politicians running around with mobs after them. Duke of Wellington had to install, we call the Duke of Wellington the Iron Duke, not because he was so tough and beat the French. It's because he had to install iron grills over his windows, and that was because people kept trying to break his windows.
Is that right?
Yeah. So context is everything, mate. And that doesn't mean we should go, oh, well, yeah, everything's great today, we shouldn't try any harder, because, of course, massive challenges and I'm excited about the things we can do and trying to improve people's lives. But at the same time, we shouldn't go, oh, everything's so terrible. Let's roll the dice on these fascists over here and see if they can do any better. That's how I feel.
Well, we were thinking
that got a bit serious a bit quick.
No, not in the slightest. But these are the times we live in. But when you sort of like talk about that rolling the dice, me and Dan were discussing this the other day, and it's kind of that thing where, there's that feeling in this country that people are like, I'm fed up with two major parties. We need a change. And it's a bit like, saying, we don't need dogs anymore. Let's get a gorilla. Like, it's just, it's too extreme.
Yeah, and that's the argument about America, where America's just seemed to have gone absolutely bonkers, right? And the argument is they win the Cold War when there was like a nationally unifying, serious external threat. You win the Cold War, and then they got bored and just kind of turned on each other.
Yeah.
And went, right, we won the Cold War. We're richer and more prosperous than ever in any society in recorded history. We have no external enemies. The world is, in the 90s, sort of roughly speaking, again, wars here and there, but roughly speaking, a more peaceful world than ever before. And they all just thought, it's a bit boring, isn't it? Yeah. Let's just absolutely pile into those
exactly.
and create an internal enemy.
Yeah.
Rather than just chill out and go and play golf.
Yeah.
Absolutely astonishing to me.
Imagine if there was an alternate world where people just chilled out and played golf.
Just calm down.
Yeah.
You're an old... it's never been a better time in the history.
Instead of the news tonight, we're just somebody going, just relax.
Just relax.
Relax.
You know what? There's no one in your kid's school pretending they're a cat. That's just made up. Just calm down. Enjoy your spectacular wealth and pain-free living.
Yeah.
Your unlimited suite of home entertainment. The entire canon of a human's creative output, the tip of your fingers. You can read Dickens, Homer, watch Last of the Mohicans, listen to any music you want. Just why don't you just go and do that and just chill?
It's that amazing thing, isn't it? Because maybe it's like, how old are you?
I am now 46.
Yeah, so maybe because we saw that peculiar age where we remember that kind of analog world. So I can still remember holding on, like John Oliver, actually, the comedian. He was the first person I knew that had an iPod.
Really?
I used to borrow it off him.
Wow.
And it was the greatest thing in the world that you suddenly were like, I remember him playing tennis with another of my mate, and I was like playing with his iPod going, so you got every song that you like in the world here.
I know.
Fucking hell, what a world. It's just, but you know what I mean?
And actually, I was thinking about, it's weird. I thought coming into this, do you know what? I'm old enough to still remember the excitement of the early internet. I almost want to, but I love being able to access every song. When you were a kid in South London with a freaking cassette player and you really want to listen to some music, and that was a dream to access that music. My cousin in Canada would be like, they've released an album over here, and you're like, you'd write a letter saying, oh my God, dream. They released Batman early, and he released all these movies early, and they come to England late for some reason, God knows why. And so I think we shouldn't lose track of that astonishing achievement. Like, it is an amazing piece of technology. It's also for some reason sent us all insane.
Yeah, that is the side.
That's the downside. But also, I like
within the context of music, it's sort of like I can vividly remember, holding my two fingers over play record, listening to the top 40, desperately trying to get it right.
And sometimes on Capital FM, those Philistines, DJs, would come in and sing the last few bars.
Yeah, that's not what
I need. Say a few things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Mark
Dr.
Goodier.
Fox. Hey, what were they thinking? Exactly. You're trying to make a mixtape for your girlfriend.
Yes.
And you've got
Fox ruining
Fox
it. Yeah, exactly.
On the end.
Exactly.
Singing tunelessly.
I've got her halfway up the runway and then Fox is coming. What is your first brilliant thing, Dan?
So my first brilliant thing is sunsets.
Lovely.
And I am... I get teased by my friends, I get to see my workmates, I get to see my wife. I love a sunset. And then I say to them, if there was a thing that happened somewhere in the world where at a certain time the entire sky went red and pink and yellow in a swirling, ever original, never the same pattern of colour and texture, you would fly. Everyone would fly there and they'd have their pictures taken with it, and then that thing happens everywhere in the world every day, and it's free and you can see it from anywhere, and yet because we're so used to it, like there's the sun. It is a miracle every evening, and I sit there with my kids and I go down to the beach near me. Sometimes we have a little fire and I have a little beer. and I give them some water. And now as they get older, they're asking for fizzy drinks. And I just love watching the sunset. It just anchors me. I adore it. It is the most beautiful thing. People go to art galleries and spend money to look at Turner or someone else painting a sunset when they are freely available. The OG sunset is available all the time. And you'd go on holiday, wouldn't you? People go on holiday to look at the Northern Lights. Oh, there's Northern Lights in Iceland. That's great. I spent $3,000 to see that.
But that's such a great way of looking at art, because it's like you could look at like a picture of fruit and go, you know that you got they got him in Tesco.
Actually, gosh, that's so lifelike, that tomato.
yeah, look at that. And look at value. It's 2 for 1.
Yeah.
But you're so right. It is. Why is that then? Why is it that we just take things for granted?
It's like your child's little hug, and if we never saw a sunset again, if we were all sent to Mars, and I imagine they have quite good sunsets on Mars. But anyway, if we were to live inside for the rest of our lives, we would miss the sunset every day, wouldn't we? We miss the hug of a loved one once they've passed. And I think it's just one of those strange things, and not unlike what we've always talked about. So many things around us give us such great happiness and comfort, and we only notice them when they're taken away, don't we? And I think so. Sometimes we just go. I regularly just, and partly being a filming person, I've become very aware of everything looks a lot nicer. It's like when your job involves looking through that little screen and go, that's nice, and so now we can say, and with that, the victory at the Battle of Trafalgar. And it's like, that's a nice way to end the show. It looks great. And so I'm still quite aware of sunsets, probably because of that professionally. But I've always loved them. And actually I love sunrises too. I just find that time of day magical, grounding. It's a transition from one thing to the next. I love the night that follows, because it means you're going to eat and drink and do things. I love if it's a sunrise, I love the opportunities that day is going to bring. So I just think we love them, but we're used to them, right?
They're meant to be really good for you as well from a sort of health point of view. I think if you wake up within the first half an hour, and if you get like sunlight into into your eyes.
I bet that's true. But I mean, we all miss
it. Helps with the circadian rhythm that you're seeing that,
totally.
Light at night.
I've got a teenage daughter now, and as we all know, something extraordinary happens to their sleep, doesn't it? It's really interesting. And I'm just really trying to help her to understand that I don't think she's going to feel better if she just sleeps, go to bed late and sleeps through until midday, the way teenagers had that amazing ability to do. Maybe I'm wrong, but
they have to. Apparently, my wife's a doctor.
Right, yeah.
It's that funny thing, my wife's a doctor, and we've got our friend Kumar, his daughter likes our lion. And it's quite funny. My wife's always like, no, she has to.
Yeah.
It's very important.
I'm sure.
It'll be interesting to see what happens when our son's a teenager, whether he's allowed to pull that.
Yes, exactly. Clean your. It's really important for medical reasons. I don't clean my room as well, Mum.
Are you fishing down by this beach?
We do, but yes, we do, because we find that the bass come in as well that time. Often things change at sunrise, sunset, but where we are, we have these big sea breezes that come in. We have that classic southwesterly wind that comes in. Anyone living in England knows, and Scotland in particular as well, where Britain will know that we live on the edge of the Atlantic. We get the dominant wind is the big westerly wind. It used to be called the Protestant wind because it kept all the Catholic French in their harbours, and meant that they were locked up in harbours, couldn't set sail, and it meant that Brits could sail out of Portsmouth and Plymouth completely happily. And so it was said, God's an Englishman. Look, we got this Protestant wind that blows up the channel, keeps the French invasion fleets in their port, and that Protestant wind, that wind is all the trees near me are all bent over, so the southwest, and that's a sea breeze. So as the land, as the sea and the land heat differently, we get this big breeze by the middle afternoon, especially in the summer. It's quite breezy, and at sunset that just drops down, and so it goes back to being flat calm. We can see the bass coming right up to the beach, and you can see their little fins. They're like little sharks. It's amazing. And my boy can chuck his little hook out and try and catch one. It's great. So it's just a very special time.
Yeah, amen. What a lovely start, Dan.
I looked up your best sunsets in the world, best places to catch the sunset.
Okay, lovely.
Santorini, the west coast of Australia.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Utah National Park, and then Phuket in Thailand. Because if you're off your box on drugs,
well, that's
any
right.
sunset's
And it's all good. A few little mushrooms, and that really does, as I understand it, increase the vividness of them. But actually, it's interesting because if you go to some sort of cloudless place, I like a sunset, but it just drops. The sun just drops. And what we love in the UK is that those autumnal and those wintry ones where you've got loads of clouds, you have loads of mad texture that the sun can then work with.
It's when it looks when you've got that kind of scattered cloud, and it looks like someone's put a fork through sweet potato shepherd's pie. Do you know what I mean? And it's just
By the way,
that's not
sweet potato shepherd's pie.
It's all right. Yeah.
Hang on a second.
Well, that's one of the one of the great things about having a little boy, that we're now kind of cooking those kind of like classic meals, but with no salt. That's the only thing.
Yes, I know.
And then you have to put flavour in it afterwards.
That's right.
Yeah, my son's a big fan of the shepherd's pie.
It's my son's birthday today, and I'm going home after this for
gosh.
Toad in the Hole on his request. Which,
Ole.
for 30 years, Toad in the Hole didn't really feature in my. I'd sort of forgotten it existed. Bit like dinosaurs. I forgot. Dinosaurs are amazing. You're obsessed with them as a kid. Don't give them 2 minutes of thought through your 20s and 30s.
Yes.
And then you have a kid and you're like, by the way, you're absolutely right. These are bonkers. And you go to the museums, you get back into them because they are incredible. But anyway, so I find Toad in the Hole similar to dinosaurs.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
One dinosaur question.
Yeah.
Has it been established now that they had feathers?
I think so, yes.
Why then do all the dinosaurs we see in books and in museums not have feathers
Well, I think
now?
you've got sons younger than mine now, but you do see a few feathers kind of being. There's a bit of blue tack, and the odd feather goes on now. I've seen them coming in now in the museums. Have you?
I wasn't aware that this was a sort of a.
They're like giant chickens.
Yeah.
Right. What?
Yeah.
Well, all of them.
The closest living relative to the Tyrannosaurus rex on Earth now is a chicken.
What?
Yeah, this is cool. It's a new thing.
Well,
There's loads
but
of
you can
feathers.
instantly see that's what I mean. As a 45-year-old man, I literally just went wow,
Yeah,
and was excited.
But Jurassic, didn't the recent Jurassic Park films have a few feathers around the neck and stuff?
Yes.
They get feathers going.
Yes,
on.
I just feel the adoption of this new fact is coming in very slowly,
I know,
given
it's
that
too
we
slow.
now know that
It's
they
too
weren't
slow.
all bald.
It's not good
So
enough.
did the T-Rex like wake people up in the morning in a similar thing? Like just how far connected were they to chickens? What is your next brilliant thing?
Well, I do love sailing, hence my weird sailing wind chat. I love sailing, and in particular, like sailing tall ships.
Okay, as a non-sailing aficionado, what's the difference between a tall and a small ship?
Roughly speaking, things that are like pirate ships,
Right,
things like
okay.
HMS Victory. So ships in which you have to climb up the rigging and set the sails manually by sort of climbing out on bits of extraordinary yards and spars.
What is that like when it's kind of spinning around?
It's the most joyful. That's why it's on the list. It's the most joyful and wonderful thing on earth. And you have to work as a team. You're out, and it's these. It is the pinnacle of human ingenuity. About, say, 200 years ago, the golden age of these big tall ships before the disgusting invention of steam and messy internal combustion engines and heat engines, all that kind of stuff. And these ships sailed around the world on wind power. And they were able to harness the wind. They were able to extraordinary things, go super fast. Think of Cutty Sark down in London that was made in Scotland. You think of HMS Victory. They were the single most complicated objects that any human had ever produced to that point in history. And they still sail the world today. And there's these things called tall ships races. And you go along and it's like a subculture of just happy, wonderful people outdoors all day, working as a team. And I've been on, and if I was Prime Minister for a day, I would build a fleet of those ships, and every kid in this country would get to go out to sea in one of them. But first of all, because we're an island people, I'd love to connect people with that maritime heritage. But secondly, because there is no better. I went on one. I was 18. It changed my life from Greenock, so Glasgow, round to Aberdeen, and we got on. It was me and all these kids from Glasgow, and I went on. And they were first night. The captain just thought, right, let's just went out in the Irish Sea, and everyone was sick, and it was rough, and we had to in the middle of the night. You're going up the mast, and you're heaving on ropes, and you're doing all this stuff, and it doesn't matter that it was. Everyone surprised you all the time. The big strong lads might be scared of going up high, or they might get, and it would be the smaller, quieter young woman who hadn't sort of played a big part up to that point. She would be the one who climbed all the way to the top and pull that key bit of rope that meant we didn't capsize or whatever it might be. And it is just, it is a harmony, and it is beautiful. It's great, and I love it. And you're just sort of surging through the oceans, and you go as far as the wind blows. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, but it's presumably as well when you're little. It's kind of that. I mean, I've done surfing, and that sort of feeling of being in harmony with nature and kind of sort of feeling like for a nanosecond you conquer it.
Yeah.
It's an incredible feeling. But if you're doing that as a team, like you say, it must feel wild just to kind of when it's really zipping through the ocean.
When it's zipping through the ocean, you're absolutely right about surfing, and sometimes you can surf. You surf down a wave of one of those big ships, which brings its own excitement. But yeah, you're a team. You're working together. And maybe it's because they look so. The expression "learn the ropes." There are hundreds of ropes. There were miles of ropes on HMS Victory, for example, and each one of them does a particular job. And it's just, it doesn't look like it should work, and yet they do. And in combination, you can. Those are the ships that took human beings around the world for the first time. It is. they are extraordinary things, and they are so good for people to, especially young people, to go on and build their confidence and work as a team. I love it, and I would do, I've do what I can to support charities that take young people out to sea on them. They're great.
Is there a sort of dream route for you to go?
Yes, that would be a dream.
Where would you like to go?
I'd like to go on an 18th century frigate. They actually kind of similar to the one they did a few. I'd like to sail to Australia, right on the other side of the world.
What from here to
little old England, right?
How long
right in the UK.
would that take on one of those?
Good question. I think it would take about 8 months. Yeah, it's a long time.
It'd be great though.
With a hold full of criminals.
Well, depends. It depends whose friends you're taking, but I think I would take. I think ideally you'd want sort of willing participants. Okay. And I think you would go.
It'd be an amazing thing to do as a family as well.
Wouldn't it be? That's what I think.
Yeah, it'd be wild.
Family, and
that's a gap year.
It's a gap year, mate.
Isn't it?
Family gap year.
And then you drop them off in Australia.
I'd love to take one of those family gap. Would you must have hallucinate about that. Like a family
absolutely.
Gap year.
Yeah, the closest I've got, I did a tour in Europe and America on a bus with my wife and son, and that was pretty amazing. Just kind of
was it a different bus though in Europe and America?
Yeah, different buses.
Okay.
Yeah, separate tours. Yeah. We flew to America, but it just that
How
feeling.
How long was that?
The 3 weeks both times, and
so
just
nice.
but that thing of being in Minneapolis and then doing a show and then driving and then waking up in Chicago and
how old was your boy?
9 months.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, little. Yeah, so he kind of not even walking, but just pootling around the world.
Yeah, amazing.
So tell me more about this boat you went on when you were 18.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. It's called Sail Training Association, and it's just kids. Called the Sail Training Association. Right. It's just these one of many excellent charities that just believe that young people can benefit enormously. And I was there with a group of kids, and interestingly, there was a sectarian element there. So football shirts had to be banned because there was a Rangers Celtic thing going on, and they were from different parts of Glasgow, and I was a kind of volunteer to be a sort of one of the slightly older kids, but I was only 18. And that's a sort of, they call them watch leaders. And we went out and we just sailed all the way around. And when we got to Aberdeen, and many of them had never, several of them had never really left the Clyde before. And we got round to Aberdeen, they were people crying there to be, everyone was getting back in minibus to go home. And there were these kids were like, and I've stayed in touch with some of them, and it led to different outcomes in terms of their ambition, their life. One got a passport and went to work abroad, things like that. And we'd stop off in the Highlands and Orkney along the way. And
it's a funny thing, isn't it, Scotland? Because it's kind of when you sort of my feelings of Scotland were like Edinburgh and Glasgow, and then when you kind of like travel up through it, it's the most beautiful place in the world, isn't it? And it must be that thing, presumably, if you're a kid in inner city Glasgow, you very seldom get to see the majesty of your country. What is your next brilliant thing?
My next brilliant thing, I think, is going to be. I think this is one that I'll bring in my sort of day job a bit. But I love being outdoors. I love hiking. But for me, I combine them in something sort of a bit of a history hike, a history walk, where. Again, this is the thing. My daughter has now absolutely stopped. But I used to go. She was like my little sidekick. We used to do it all the time. But get outdoors, go for a walk. It's good exercise. We all know that. Get into the countryside, get around trees. We know the wellness. Perhaps watch the sunrise. But for me, the lovely thing is having a little purpose as well, and that's walk up to the Iron Age hill fort on the hill, go up to that old castle, go and have a look at them. Walk up through the footpath and look at the stately home, whatever. Not because, and people just assume I'm a massive geek and love history, which I sort of do. But for me, actually, it's just having that purpose. Maybe I'm a bloke. It's like some blokes want to play golf, even though it's a walk, but you can whack a ball into a hole on the way. And I just love. Rather than just going for a purposeless walk, which I'm probably not, I wouldn't be good enough at. I think some people are, and I admire them. I go, I'm going to walk up to that headland and look at that old gun battery on it and then walk back. So I'm not obsessed with a gun battery, and I'm not an expert in these things, but it just for me gives you that lovely motivation for doing that. And so I spend a lot of time when I'm away with work or with family, we'll go for a walk, but it will be a sort of it's driven by guys, we need to walk up to that Bronze Age tumulus, and the kids are like, great, and then they get there and there's virtually nothing there. They're like, well, what's the Bronze? And I'm like, it's not about the Bronze Age tumulus, lads. It's about the walk we've just had together and the chat and the exercise and the fresh air and all that kind of stuff. So it's a spin on going for a walk, but it's a motivated, it's purpose driven.
And are you subconsciously talking about kind of history with your kids, or do you try not to, or is that, do you know what I mean? Because it clearly like sort of emanates off you.
I try not to force it down the throats. I think they are, unfortunately.
But if you're going to like an old bronze thing, presumably you must be clucking.
I'm like, oh, there we go. We can do. But they quite rapidly, they might occasionally, if they're in a very good mood, they might even ask me a question. But then they will stop listening to the answer after about 4 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's the really good days.
Yeah.
And the really bad. So my youngest she's the rebel of the youngest. She's the ungovernable kind of mad youngest child, and she absolutely will do anything possible to sabotage one of these said walks.
Right.
And she will do her level, like when we get to the bronze age, she will deliberately look the other way as we she will turn her back to it and pretend that she. I mean, we were in driving around Ireland once on a road trip looking at castles. Which is a bit of an embarrassing admission. But anyway, we were, and as on a family trip, we went to see some cousins in Dublin. I said, well, we're here, we'll go for a little road trip. And she was about, and that reminder that the youngest has no idea what's going on. You know, that amazing thing about being a youngest kid. The oldest ones they're anxious. I'm an oldest, and I'm always anxious, and I say, where are we going now? Where are we going to have lunch? The youngest is just, her life's great. Because she's got a mum and a dad. She's got 2 older siblings. So if she looks at the older siblings, if they're roughly speaking all right, she goes, well, I'm it. And also, I'm so far down the chain of command that if everything goes wrong, what am I going to do? Solve it. So she just like exists in this entirely consequence-free, happy space. And so we were on this, the other 2 are sort of trying to engage the fact we're looking at these castles. 2 or 3 days in, we drove over this hillside. Oh, look, there's the next one. She went, oh God, another smashed house. So she obviously didn't know. She hadn't even engaged with the fact we were driving around looking at castles. She just was being sort of swept. So she is brilliant, and I don't know what's going on in her head most of the time. But so she had sabotaged these things.
Sounds like a great tour guide, though. Just very succinct.
Well,
cynical, succinct. Yeah, exactly.
Another smashed house. For people
Broken
listening,
bridge.
People
died.
Old, yeah.
Right, that's that done.
Dusty pots in a museum. So for people who are listening who think I'm insane, I would just say, my view is always, it's about the hike, it's about the day out as a family. The little thing that you go and look at the end is just that it's just the motivation for getting there. Yeah. So I also we go into museums. We'll pop in a museum, and people think it's weird because I'll pop in for 20 minutes. Like, you're on the high street, you've got that local museum that you know people can get a bit snooty. You don't have to go in there and do 3 hours to get every single box. And here's an old trilobite that was found 250 years ago. For me, it's just get in, look at 2 things, have a chat with the kids about it, and get out.
Yeah.
Now, and I think that is a way that's really good. It's just a really good introduction, just so you think, okay, yeah, it's part of a day out on the high street. It's part of a day out. You don't have to make it the focus of, guys. When I was a kid, it was like, we're going to the museum. And it's like 6 hours later, you stagger out.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually, isn't it? That it's just that nip in.
And
then, like you said.
But look, particularly if it's free, it's such a privilege. Lots of things are free in this country. And sometimes if you've handed over that 5, you think, I want to get I need to get some time in here. Waste some kids' time. But for me, it's like, go into the British Museum, look at the mummies, get the hell out. And I think that is something that I've tried to give my kids. So they don't hate it. I don't sort of, they're not mining that seam all day.
Yeah, sure.
How do you find one?
What?
A history walk. So you're imbued with history, and you're like, oh, I can see there's an Iron Age. So people might be listening to this and going, that sounds good and more purposeful. How is someone going to find
Well, I'll tell you how. Because people are going to install the greatest contribution that the Brits have ever made to civilization on their phones, and that is the Ordnance Survey app.
All right.
Because you just get on the Ordnance Survey app, and it just has little bits of, have those strange bits of handwriting going, battlefield, tumulus. And everywhere I go in the country, I'm secretly looking at that, and my wife's like, what are you looking at over there? Ordnance Survey app, of course. And
I think the Ordnance Survey app has just gone up loads by listening to this. Genuinely, because it's like, I'll grab that. My wife caught me kind of moaning at my phone the other day, and it was just looking at goals that Paul Scholes had scored.
Well,
and you must be the same when you're looking on that app, going, I've walked there.
I've done that. Tick that off. Yeah. Paul Scholes goals, though, very good.
Wowzers! Yeah,
I mean, what a talent.
I'm a Liverpool fan.
Really, the other thing that's great that is I really restrict screen time for my kids, but it's sometimes nice on a Sunday morning, and they come and they jump into bed, and you go, "Have you ever heard of?" Have you ever heard of Eric Cantona? And they'll be just like, never heard of him. That is one of the fun things about parenting, when you go, I've just realised you've never heard of Star Wars. And they're like, whoa, shut up, Dad, it's going to be rubbish. And then you just go, just shut up and watch this. And then that's it. It's so fun. That.
And does it, were they still obsessed? They still enjoyed it?
Yeah, what Cantonar or Star Wars? Yeah, no, Star Wars. Yes, they're into the universe. But now they've done that. My daughter's watching Andor by herself. She's very grown up. I mean, what are you going to do? But it's so funny when you forget to remind, that's the fun that you go, hey, guys, there's a band called Oasis who you're going to love, and whatever it is, and you introduce them to these mad things. You're like, here's, as you say, and now you've got YouTube. You go, there's a guy called Jonah Lomu who played rugby for New Zealand.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And it was quite a thing. And they're like, whatever, Dad. And then they're like, oh my, that's amazing.
I'm not even a rugby fan, but I remember watching Jonah Lomu.
Yeah, that was the
just
thing.
going, what is that?
That was a phenomenon. It was just a thing.
And he's a winger. He's 6'10", and you go watch him run through men. Incredible.
Yeah, exactly. So that's fun when you do that. But when you get it wrong, it's really embarrassing. Like if you go, look, here's some quality tunes from the 90s. And your kids just turn around and look at you after a few minutes and go, this is shocking. Yeah. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like, I guess that's the peril, isn't it? But you got to risk it for a biscuit. Now, I saw out the corner of my eye Mr. Brightside. So while we're talking about music, is that one of your...
Well, I'm very embarrassed to admit that I think I've got the most mainstream taste. I sometimes discover a thing, think it's cool, and then on the Guardian website a year later it goes, things centrist dads like, and it's my entire it's very embarrassing. But I love Mr. Brightside, and that does follow. So I said to my son, oh yeah, you're gonna like this, is a good tune, because he was like playing something, and I said, this is a good tune, it's Mr. Brightside, and to my enormous happiness he just loves it more than life itself. And it just takes me back to, that's like, that Proustian thing, music, we all know this, music can take you back to these times and places, and I'm not saying I'm not a musician, I don't know if it's the most brilliantly composed and created bit of orchestral music in the world, but all I know is it takes back to a time when I was incredibly happy and excited about life, and it just, for some reason, and it was.
So what are we dealing with? Like 2004?
Yeah, just you're out of uni. You're in. I'd moved to London. I was all of those anxious teenage. You're young enough that you've still got that flush of youth, but you are definitely grown up enough to start to that nice thing about adulthood, which you're less nervous about wearing the wrong shoes, or so there's a perfect point in life, isn't there, when you're young, but you're also not you're not afflicted by social anxiety and being in the wrong crowd and getting FOMO. So that and for me, my career was going well, life was going well, my family were well. And that was just the anthem at the time.
And then this song comes along, and you're like, "That'll do."
That'll do.
Right.
I'll have that, and that'll do. And then it became this weird thing, because then I would, it's like rougher times when you've got kids and you're stopping, you're pulling the car over, and you haven't slept, and you're changing a nappy on the when the car in the boot. And everyone's honking at you because you've stopped in an inappropriate place, but your child's been sick of themselves and shut themselves, so you're trying to change the nappy, and then you've got the radio on the front, and like Mr. Brightside will come on, and it just taunts you, because you're like, it wasn't that long ago. This meant something else, but now it's a new incarnation, because now my kids love it, and they've got this kind of, they brilliantly by themselves worked out, they don't, because they're always putting songs on now, because as we said, kids can get any song they want all the time, and they all shout at each other if they put on Mr. Brightside at the wrong time, which I think is good.
What do you mean?
Because it's not a moment of extreme excitement and exultation and celebration.
Yes.
So when my son playing for Brockenhurst Badgers, under 10s last
I played
season,
football against Brockenhurst when I was a kid.
You didn't?
I did, yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, go on.
I can see you must still have the scars. It must have
the
been
Badgers, I like that.
The Badgers, yeah.
Honey Badgers or just full-on Badgers?
They are the Honey Badgers,
okay,
actually.
nice.
But I didn't think we had time for me to really give them the full title. And they won a big cup game in Bournemouth.
Great.
Yeah, in Bournemouth.
Oh, nice.
Not in the Forest, in Bournemouth
okay.
itself.
Yeah.
In the big city. So those kids are quite useful in Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Right? Not like some of the old country folk around the Forest. Anyway, and on the way back, my son was like, we can play Brightside.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah. And so he just got it, and my daughter's the same. And then my 13-year-old, interestingly, she's now, I tell myself that she's been through the nadir of hating it, because she had a big hockey game the other day, And she sent me a text, very unusual. She communicates with me, but she said, "Can you send me some of those songs that you play in the car?"
Wow, so you're like some sort of cool dealer.
Well, no, exactly.
Yeah, I love
so
that.
I don't, because I said these are some of the songs you want to listen to when you're playing sport after sport. If you want. And so she didn't. She didn't tell her mates, but she's like, "All right, Dan, that was quite good. That one." So luckily, I think I've managed to sort of sow that passion in a future generation.
I love that though. The certain songs, it makes sense that they're kind of, but we hold them back for those moments.
Yes.
But the great thing about that song now is that, isn't that beautiful? So it's kind of a song that reminds you of the beginning of your life where you're beginning to be a bit more sure-footed. And then it's now a song that will remind you of the Badgers winning the tournament.
No, actually, I hadn't thought you've just articulated. I haven't thought about it. It's really special for me now because actually it's not just being sad about. I went through a phase when it was me being sad about my old life.
Yeah.
and now it's just really happy and proud of it's enjoying my current life, and I think everyone listening will have those songs, won't they? But I find the problem with the internet, the Spotify and all that stuff, is people put inappropriate songs on for inappropriate moments. Right. So I always find it fascinating when everyone's sort of chilling out and then someone will just put some hard house on. You're like, what are we doing here? I like that, but there's a time and a place for that music. I went down, I made a TV show once, we went down the Grand Canyon, and these guys, the American guys we were with, say, we want music, but it has to be music that we create. And so everyone bought banjos and drums. And sure enough, because then the music reflects your moods. Because sometimes at night you're like,
I see that,
just chilling and winding down for the evening. And sometimes we had a few beers. We'd been down a big rapid. It was the after, and everyone was in the mood for something a little bit more live. And so you realise, and that's the thing about, and that's great DJs know this, of course, but matching the mood and building the mood and bringing the mood down is such a skill. And my kids sometimes are just like, oh yeah, we'll just put some absolutely banging track alongside Sinead O'Connor. Nothing compares. Like, guys, this is wrong. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
This is not a pre-match vibe or whatever it might be.
What's your next brilliant thing?
Okay, how many brilliant things we got?
We've had 4. I believe.
We got one left.
We had 4.
Yeah, this is the 5th thing.
Number 5.
It's 5 because it's between.
5.
Oh, it's a tough one because it's between Gherkins and democracy.
Wow.
Wow. Last the Mohicans.
Both can go off.
Yeah, both. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, let's. It's up to you. Dealer's choice.
To be honest, we did talk at the start about.
Do you know what? Do both.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think one's probably quite. To be fair, one's probably quite quick, which is Gherkins.
Yeah.
I mean, Gherkins, self-evidently, the food of champions.
Sensational. Yeah.
Sensational. I'll never forget my first gherkin on the McDonald's hamburger or cheeseburger on McDonald's cheeseburger.
And some people fling them away.
Unbelievable.
Extraordinary.
But happy for us.
Yeah. Agreed.
Because I remember going to kids' parties at McDonald's, which were obviously the best parties, and you would go and.
Were you like minesweeping?
Of course I was. From an early age.
Yeah. Nice.
You minesweep the gherkins.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, don't look at me like you didn't do that as well.
But from family members, I wouldn't. I remember seeing my granddad
not
once.
From classmates?
I remember seeing my granddad once. Well, I reckon I was about 6, and he drank someone else's gravy from their plate, and it was just and even at like 6, I remember thinking, I don't know, mate. I'm not sure, granddad.
Yeah, I think that's quite extreme.
It was a proper like, that ain't going to waste.
Yeah.
No, it's not now, you fucking lunatic.
I think.
Rest in power.
Dip a little bit of bread on the edge of a family member's plate a little bit.
Family member's fine. But
this was
someone else.
No.
I was in a little. Yeah, it was in a little chef.
No, hang on.
Yeah, it was mad.
No,
that's what
different
I mean.
table, different table, different group.
Different group.
Right? No, that's not.
It's
right.
madness.
That's
and
madness.
Even at 6, I remember thinking,
that's madness.
That's a bit crazy.
That's crazy.
But I love this guy.
And did he make cold bones?
They'd finished, they'd sort of left, and he just went over there and
no, that's mad.
Slurped the gravy from the plate. Anyway,
so I mineswept gherkins from front, and I remember, and they have sometimes like a little bit of ketchup and mustard on as well, which I thought was very nice. Yeah, and then I got into then I grew, and I realised that gherkins came in full gherkin size. They weren't just sliced things. And I just start, and now I just chow a gherkin.
Yeah,
I mean, that will sort me out. Sometimes, if I'm feeling very posh, I will get some hummus and just smash a gherkin into it and use the gherkin as a spoon to spoon the hummus.
Oh, I bet that's a lovely combo.
That's a great combo.
Have you been to your classic kind of New York deli where you get those great, incredible,
incredible.
Yeah, and you get one of those alongside your sandwich.
Well, you get them fish and chip shops here as well. To be fair, you can have a gherkin with fish. I will always. You can. No, I love fish. I love gherkin with fish. I love gherkin with most things. But yeah, the New York Day the gherkin is a sort of side order. It's just extraordinary, isn't it? And the recent arrival of lots of Eastern Europeans into Britain has brought up the gherkin game here.
Yeah.
So my producer is of Croatian origin. She's just got, her gherkin game is extraordinary. Her mum, they make their own pickled gherkins.
Yeah, I was going to say,
mind-blowing.
Is it tricky for you to have your kind of bog standard one around?
No, I can. Yes, it's embarrassing for me. If I bring that, she'll be like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
I say, well, your mum hasn't sent any gherkins across. Man's got to eat.
Yes, yes.
But I'm very democratic. I'll eat any gherkin. And then you discover, the great joy, Tesco's, they pre-slice the gherkins. I mean, there's all sorts of gherkin purchases you can make.
I'm trying to think, the one we've got at the minute, there's like a lady on the front. It's called Mrs. Something or others.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
It's green and...
she's got like quite an old-fashioned, almost like gingham dress.
Yes, gingham dress.
And they're all right. And they're kind of sliced.
Yeah, they're sliced. Yeah. They're sandwich ready, which is just great.
It's Mrs. Ellswood.
Mrs. Ellswood, yeah.
I mean, the technology that's gone on in the gherkin game in recent years is phenomenal.
Well, I imagine
is that right?
I imagine this is this is probably a bit of you, isn't it? Kind of pick.
Love a gherkin. Yeah. While we're here, I guess a quiz question: which historical figure ate industrial amounts of gherkins?
Oh, well, if you get okay.
I know I'm putting you on the spot because you're supposed to know all these things.
Yeah, no, the
hamburger.
Very neat.
The hamburger. Gherkin eater. Goodness me.
Well, can you give us a clue?
Africa.
Okay.
Nelson Mandela.
Earlier than Nelson Mandela. A leader of a country.
A leader of a country in Africa.
Attributed their great beauty to
Cleopatra.
Cleopatra.
There you go. Yeah.
Cleopatra was a massive gherkin.
Was she?
Yeah.
Wow.
And she said that she was so beautiful because she had so many gherkins.
So a bath full of milk, and she was dipping the gherkins.
And married her brother. Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
It's an impression of Cleopatra.
Oh, I see. Very good. I didn't know you did impressions.
Wow, really?
Imagine that. Have you ever seen Rob Brydon do stand-up? It's really funny because he does this brilliant thing where he'll do an impression and then tell the audience who he's doing. And it's so charming. I don't know what, but he'll go, Al Pacino.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know, it's as far as stage tricks go, God, it's the funniest thing.
He should be on this list because he is the most, charming is the word, isn't it? He's very, very funny, but just unbearably charming and just lovely, isn't he?
I had one. Have you ever had? I tell you what is a lovely thing, and it's not for me to put them in. But if you're in a foreign country and you're coming down, you're in a hotel, you're in a breakfast place, and you bump into somebody you know, and then you have breakfast with them. Yeah. I had that with him in Australia,
lucky you.
In Sydney. I was like, we had this whole chat about Elvis. Turns out he was doing like an Elvis doc. I don't know why he was in Oz. But in that Elvis never left America. But maybe he'd just done it. But it was, when you just have one of these kind of breakfasts where you're hanging out with what feels like an uncle that likes you, and he's telling you all about a thing you don't know about. Yeah. God, it was the best.
Well, actually, you say, do you know? But I don't know that feeling because I very rarely bump into sort of A-list celebrities when I have breakfast with me in glamorous foreign locations. Yeah. But I mean, lucky you. That sounds great.
Do you know best? Here's my best one. Chrissy Hind. Kind of went, hey, how you doing? Mind if I sit down? And had breakfast with me.
Amazing.
And it became apparent after about 10 minutes that she thought I was Stephen Merchant.
Oh, no.
It was in LA.
So
but
good.
she was going, so how's the comedy going? I was going, it's going great, Chrissy. You know what I mean?
Going great.
And then it was something like she went,
how's Ricky?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Okay. That was the thing. She asked me, she went, so do you and Ricky still get on? And I went, oh, God.
Oh,
and then it was just this weird thing where we'd sort of had enough of a chat for the first 10 minutes to kind of get through the eggs.
Yeah.
But,
Well, I'm often mistaken for other people, and I think the key thing is to absolutely bat on, because otherwise you make them feel so... Oh, you told her, you said?
Yeah.
Oh.
And then I was showing photos of me to kind of go, I can see why you made... Because we do look... But we're actually from the same part of the world.
Yeah.
She was like, check, please.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Oh, God, that's terrible.
So let's do... she just have pretended?
Yeah. Oh, very good. Everyone up.
What
is the... let's do democracy then.
Okay,
final thing.
Okay, we started on this. We're going to finish on this. Yep. People need to get their shit together and realise that for most of human history, that normal people have been dominated by sadistic, violent thugs or priests or both, and fabulously rich people, and that is the norm. That is the norm. The most human societies throughout history, incredibly rich and violent people have decided what happens. Okay, and we have there's spurts and fits and starts throughout history for ancient Athens elsewhere, where we go, no, actually, do you know what? We got a different. We're gonna what we'll do is something a bit different actually, which you can fuck right off, and we are gonna say how we want to organise our societies, right? And that's what we've got. It's incredibly precious. It's very, very, very unusual. And so when people are going, oh God, voting doesn't much point doing it anyway, is there? You're like, you are out of your tiny minds. You have no idea what we've managed to build here. We built the most astonishing system whereby we can force, no matter how rich you are, no matter how tall, good-looking, powerful, violent you are, you have to obey the same rules that we obey. And we are all going to have a share collectively in making those rules. That is a miracle. And we need to cherish it and protect it and not even allow I just sometimes wish, there was just a strong man who could come and just sort it all out, get the trains running on time. It doesn't work. I promise you, take it from me, take it from anyone else who knows about it. It doesn't work. It's bullshit. And we need to start to rally to the defence of democracy. And those are sentences that I never believed that I'd be saying in the 1990s. We were growing up. I remember we studied Nazi Germany. Everyone's like, why are we studying this? Obviously, this is just like, this is mental. No one's going to do this ever again. And sure enough, we're in the foothills, and various parts of the world, we're in the foothills of those kind of monstrous tyrannies. So, yeah, we need to get real about it. And we need to remind ourselves how extraordinary and brilliant it is.
Yeah, I often think about that when you kind of see somebody, you sort of see the far right kind of tub thumping. Is it because those in this part of the world are those kind of awful moments when we realise just how despicable we could be to each other? Are they out of the reach of our memory a bit, so they can be a bit sort of jingoistic? And do you know what I mean? You can kind of you can hark back to a better time when things were better. You know what I mean? And it's,
definitely. I mean, this is the great tragedy, and it's a monstrous failure of my profession, which is that we all dreamed that because if we taught history, if we had images, we got. You can understand if you're living in 1900 and everyone's like, "Oh, Napoleonic Wars were terrible." You're like, "Great, I'll go and look at a painting in the National Gallery." It shows, it's quite difficult to evoke that. We got images of the Holocaust. We got images of the trenches of First World War. We know what happens when aggressive leaders plunge their nations into massive wars. We can see it. We can hear from we go to the Imperial War Museum. They've got on their website. You can actually hear people going, "Yeah, no, someone dropped a bomb on my house. This is what happened. My nan was killed." And so therefore, we believe. I think lots of us believe that by teaching us, by transmitting that, by having Holocaust Awareness Day, but all that kind of stuff, we would be able to maintain people's sense of, maintain that. Hatred for dictators, strongmen, nationalism that people felt after the Second World War. That generation, like, we don't want that anymore. We've learned where that ends. But no, sure enough, sadly, we seem to have that goldfish-like sort of memory loss. We no one's heard of it anymore. No one's bothered. So yeah,
do you think that's what it is?
And tragically, I do. I think we're doomed to make the same mistakes unless you double down and do things like educate. So the Germans after World War II, Germany's got a bit of a problem with dictatorship, hasn't it? So you denazify Germany. Kids, lessons in adults went to evening school. There were like lessons in democracy. This is why it matters. This is why it's going to deliver prosperity. This is why it delivers justice. Right? It's active. And I think in the 90s, our generation, we just went, oh, thank goodness, that's all dealt with. We got rid of Soviet communism. We'll all be fine. And actually, it needs replenishing all the time. So that's why. And actually, there's no more important thing to learn about in school. People go, do some coding. Yeah, you could do some coding, or you could learn about what happens when demagogues emerge, subvert the media, spew lies, create scapegoats in society, obscure facts, peddle fake news. Like, strikes me that's probably the most important thing we can learn at school.
Do you tour?
Do I tour? Hey, do you tour, man? Do you lift? I do not. No.
You absolutely should.
Oh, thanks, man.
No, genuinely. I was just thinking then, because it's sort of because what you're saying is very interesting. You're saying it from a position of knowledge, and you have a charm, and it strikes me that is I think one of the things that's going on at the minute is, and maybe it's a British thing, maybe it's a human thing, people don't like being told. So it's about, softly, quietly sometimes. Do you know what I mean? And it's sort of, I don't know, I was sort of just listening to you talk there and thinking, God, it would be a really interesting 2 hours to spend in your kind of company. No, but I really mean that. And it or at schools or whatever, just because there's nothing quite like charm and intelligence to make you see the world in a different way, rather than, it feels like the failure sometimes of sort of the left is that, well, you're a fucking idiot, mate.
Yeah.
And people don't respond to that. You know what I mean? And it feels, that's the problem. It's kind of, it's not being, information that should work isn't getting through because it's not being delivered in the right way. Maybe a spoonful of sugar. I don't know.
It's odd, is it? We're a funny old species. We've got a propensity to violence. We've got a propensity to altruism. You can hack. You can ignite these different parts of our brain and our spirit in different ways. And something I find extraordinary it's building a multi-confessional, so multi-religious, multi-ethnic democracy. It's hard, but that's okay.
Yeah,
like lots of things have been hard in human history, right? Like domesticating farming was hard, like going to the Mars was hard, right? So it is hard, and you've got a choice when you've got a platform to score points to make that harder, or to actually try and do what you can to tell a better story, to try and to plan game. We can do this. We can, and one day, I hope and pray, it might take 1,000 years. We can build a global democracy. That's where it's going to end. Of course it is. If we've got any chance of survival of a species. We can't have if you're standing on this side of the line and that side of the line, you're in China, now you're in Kyrgyzstan, and there's different, come on, please, give me a break. It's pathetic. We draw these lines in the sand. Don't mean it. And the weirdest thing, I have these chats with right-leaning friends, and they know that's ridiculous. Like friends in Scotland who go what we'd really like to do is draw a line down the middle of the island. That we're Scottish and you're English, and you build different. It's like, what are you talking? That's a strange dream to have.
Yeah.
What are you talking about, man?
Yeah.
I don't want a line. I want to rip up that barbed wire fence. I want to make sure that your kids can come here and my kids can go there.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? I want to make sure that your kids can marry my kids and whatever. That's for me. That's a better dream.
Yeah. What's really interesting is that kind of that fear of the other or whatever, but you could sort of peer over this kind of real or imagined fence and you could listen to them listening to Sweet Caroline and go, I quite like that song as well. Do you know what I mean? And then go, actually, we're quite similar to
that's right. That's right. I mean, that's the grotesque, that is the literal moment of the Christmas. Why people are obsessed with the First War Christmas truce is it just rips everything away from the reality of that war, and you've just got young men, 19 years old, who are same religion, in the case of the Christmas tree, same skin color. Look, you couldn't be able to pick them apart. And if you were just a Martian visiting, they all look the same. They've grown up with much of the same sort of popular culture and retail goods increasingly. And there they are, trying to hack each other to death. Kids they've never met before, they've got no beef with. Their language has got the same root. And they're trying to stab them, batter them, use maces, entrenching tools to hack them down, to shoot them from a distance, and for one night of the year they're all singing the same carols, and they all just go, hang on a minute, and then they play the same sport. They're all playing football. They're all knocking about. They're sharing the same. They like the same booze. They like the same food, and that just rips it all away briefly, and you get a chink. And that is why it was one of the most dangerous things that's ever happened. Because and High Command just shat the bed and went, we cannot allow this, because this is one step away from a revolution when all these kids just go, what are we doing here? This is bonkers.
It fascinates me that moment in history, because it's sort of, I don't know how you would know, but I've always had this image of, I don't know, maybe like a little German boy sort of just coming over the top, just with a football under his arm.
Yeah.
And they're kind of looking through it like telescope. What? Hang on a minute, he's got a ball. Let's just give it 5 minutes. And then it's sort of the majesty of football of going, what? He's doing keepy-ups.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
I could do more than that.
Jones.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Go over there and it's...
But is he good?
Yeah, he's actually got pretty, He's got good stamina, and he's got a similar way of playing, but sort of seems slightly more skilled than us. We'll have to
funny enough.
We'll have to really play it long and get underneath
they're passing to each other. Fascinating. They're in triangles. Yeah, so it was almost, I mean, it was, first of all, it was Christmas decorations. Yeah, it was amazing. And then do you know what the Germans put little Christmas trees up and stuff. And then do you know what they did the next year? Everyone just realised they would, troops that were further back behind the lines, they deliberately have massive artillery barrages, so weapons that you can operate at range, because they knew the guys in the front line will be going, should we try and... no shooting for the next half an hour and see if it happens again this year. But 10 miles behind or 5 miles behind, the artillery guys, they've got orders from, so they're just raining down high explosives and shrapnel that night and just making sure that, there was no, they went to enormous efforts to make sure there's no fraternising on later Christmas, because they realised it was existential. It was threatened to, it was like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain.
Mm-mm.
You're all fighting for this glorious, again, actually hang on a minute, what are we all doing here?
Yeah, what a wild day.
Mental.
I really loved that chat, Dan. It was so fascinating. Thanks.
Well, I hope I've won you over on the gherkin thing.
Oh, mate. Definitely. Ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful Dan Snow.